Hello grade 5, I hope you are all well, still safe, still healthy and still at home. We are ready to start our natural science lesson today, so let's get cracking. Just as a quick reminder, as always, I'm going to start by showing you the email address should you have any questions or queries or even comments on the work that we are doing for you at WorksheetCloud. Those go to grade5@worksheetcloud.com. Remember, those are different. If your parents have any questions, they should refer to the frequently asked questions section of the website. So yesterday we took some time learning about the bones of the human skeleton and their various functions. And for your activity after our lesson, I gave you a close procedure. Now, I hope you all marked it based on the memo. And one of the challenges, or sorry, should I say 2 challenges I gave you for that, were to find out the 4 different shapes of bones that are in our human body. And well done if you did that and marked it correctly. For those of you who haven't gotten there yet, quickly skip this part of the video because I'm about to tell you the answer. They are irregular bones, flat bones, long bones, and short bones. And the other question I asked you was to name the 3 smallest bones in the human body, and I even gave you a clue of telling you that they were inside your ear, and those are called the hammer, the anvil, and the stirrup. So well done if you got those correct. Now, the other part of the activity I asked you to do was to label the skeleton, and I believe I even used this skeleton here, and here I have him, and I've got surrounding all the words. Let's see if we can put the right words to the right bones. So up here at the very top, we have the head of the skeleton is the skull. Coming underneath here would be the ribs, or rib cage is the correct word for all of them put together. Underneath that, I'm pointing to this long arm bone at the very top, and that is the humerus. Remember, the humerus is connected to the funny bone, which is your elbow. Okay, coming across this arrow is pointing to the middle of the body. One of the most important bones for supporting our body and keeping our head upright is our spine, and I've even put vertebrae to remind you that each joint of the spine is called a vertebrae, and that's how we get our names as vertebrates. Underneath the humerus on the arm, I have 2 bones, and those are the radius and the ulna. Remember, the radius is the one next to your thumb, and they switch as you move and twist your wrist. Here, this arrow is pointing to the pelvis. Remember, the pelvis is the scientific name we would use for your hips. Following it down, here I have the longest and the strongest bone in the body. That is the femur. And at the bottom, sorry, I've got to scroll down slightly for you. Here I have the 2 leg bones in the bottom half of the leg, which are the tibia and fibula. And down at the very bottom, I have my foot bones. Now, coming on this side of the body, here I have my hand bones. And remember, your hands are made up of carpals, metacarpals, and your fingers are called phalanges. You don't really need to know that in grade 5, but it's always good to extend your knowledge where possible. And this bone here, across our chest, we've got one on each side, is your clavicle. Now, I have the scapula, and I haven't put an arrow in because you can't really clearly see it on this diagram, but remember, the scapula is another word for your shoulder blade, which is at the back, and it's that triangular bone on either side of your shoulders. So well done for getting those right if you did. If you didn't, keep practicing, keep learning. It's fascinating, especially if you ever would like to become a doctor when you're older. So seeing as yesterday we looked at the skeleton of the human body, I thought today it would be nice to take a trip inside your body and look at the organs that make up the human body, or some of them. We're not going to go through every single one. We'd be here all day. But let's have a little look at the main organs of your body. So, have you ever wondered what is underneath your skin? It's your organs. In fact, your skin itself is an organ. Your skin, your heart, your brains, your lungs, and many others are called organs. So today we're going to look at them in a little bit more detail. So here's a little diagram here. If I click, I'm going to remove the little boy's skin to show his organs underneath. So let's look at what they are called. The ones we're going to cover today are the brain, remember, protected by your skull, your lungs, heart, and liver, protected by your rib cage, your stomach, in a large intestine, small intestine, protected by your pelvis, and your skin. And many people forget the skin itself is an organ. So let's have a look at each of these organs in a bit more detail. And we'll start with the brain at the very top of your body. It looks a little bit like a cauliflower, doesn't it? So your brain's job is to send messages to the rest of your body using your spinal cord. Now, if you remember, I think it was yesterday or even the day before the lesson, we talked about your vertebrae and your spine protecting that spinal cord, as well as giving your body support to hold your brain up. Sorry, your head up. But that spinal cord is so important because it sends all the messages from your brain to the rest of the body and back again. So if I wanted to lift my hand and pick up my calculator, which I have on my desk here, I send a message from my brain to my arm through the spinal cord telling me to lift up the calculator and then to put it back down again. Your brain is protected by your skull, as we've already spoken about, but it's also surrounded by fluid to cushion it if you were to fall over. What we don't want to ever happen, if there was no fluid around your brain and you fell, your brain would hit the side of your skull and become damaged. So there's actually a layer of fluid surrounding the brain before the skull. Your brain needs oxygen to work properly, and it gets oxygen from your blood. It needs 3,500 pints of blood to flow through your brain every day. So if you don't get enough oxygen to your brain, you can sometimes feel quite drowsy and tired. That's why some of your teachers may get you to jump around or move about in the classroom every so often to get that blood flowing back to your brain. Now, some other fun facts about the brain I thought you'd like to know is actually that your brain is made of two sides that control different parts of your body. The right side of your brain has been identified by scientists as being the creative side. The left side of the brain is your more logical side. So any of you at schools that do brain gym activities that cross the midline of your body, things like rubbing your tummy and patting your head at the same time and swapping over, which is quite hard to do, those try to connect the two sides of your brain and get them to work in harmony. There are areas of your brain that control all things such as senses, behavior, speech, memory and movement. And there are special machines now that doctors use called MRI machines that they can track brain activity based on what you are doing. And just out of another interesting fact, if you are right-handed, as I am, then you majority use the left side of your brain, whereas if you're a left-handed person, you use majority of your right side of your brain. So now let's have a little look at the lungs of the human body. So here's a picture of lungs, and they show it going out and in. Your body needs oxygen to stay alive, and so when you breathe in, the oxygen enters your lungs. Oxygen goes from your lungs to your bloodstream, and it is carried from there to the different parts of the body. It goes to the heart first, but we'll learn that next. But it goes all the way down around to the different parts of the body. So here is a picture of lungs here, and your lungs actually take up the most of the space in your chest cavity. So if you all take a deep breath in now, You fill up your lungs and you put your hands here on your side. You may feel your rib cage expanding, and that's very important because it gives your lungs room to breathe. They are, as I've said, protected by your rib cage, and your left lung is smaller than your right lung so that there's space for your heart. So if you look at this diagram here, this is the left lung, and you'll see there is a little bit smaller and it's got a space there, and it's so that the heart can fit in. Your lungs allow you to take in fresh air and get rid of stale air from your cells respiring. Now, you can actually live with one lung. You won't be able to do a lot of things like running around and exercise, but it is possible to do so. Your lungs are very important, so please take good care of them by not doing things such as smoking when you're grown up. Now let's have a little look at the heart. The heart is basically a huge pump for blood. It's actually called an organ, but in reality it's a muscle. It's located not in the dead center of your chest as most people think, and if you watch movies they sometimes press if they're doing CPR on someone in the middle, but that's actually wrong. It's to the little of the left of the middle of your chest, and it's about the size of your fist. Now, the great thing about the heart being a muscle, and I love this fact, is that the more you exercise, the bigger a muscle gets in your arms or your legs. It's exactly the same as a heart. The more you exercise, the bigger your heart gets. The heart's job is to send blood around the body. The blood provides the body with the oxygen and nutrients it needs to survive. So the right side of your heart receives blood that's coming back from the body that's a bit stale and got all the gunk in that we want to breathe out, whereas the left side takes the oxygenated blood from the lungs and pumps it to the rest of the body. Okay, so actually the left side of the heart here you'll see is a bit of a thicker muscle because it needs a lot more to be able to pump that right the way down and right the way up to the top of your head and the tips of your toes. Now the liver is a fascinating organ. Here is a picture of what the liver looks like. It looks a little bit gross, doesn't it? Like an alien of some kind. But the liver is the largest internal organ of the body. Many people actually misunderstand and say it's the largest organ of the body. It's not. I wonder if you know what it is, but we'll find out soon. But it is the largest internal organ. The liver's job is to store energy, but it also gets rid of all the toxins that we take in as part of our daily life. When you are fully grown, your liver can weigh up to about 1.5 kilos, but by the time you're 60, it actually will have shrunk to about 800 grams or 0.8 kilograms. Don't worry, it still does its job. The other fascinating part about the liver before we go on to the stomach is the fact the liver can actually regenerate. So if you damage your liver but you give yourself time to recover, it can regenerate. In fact, there's even been some cases of people who have had to have a little bit of liver removed because they've got some kind of cancer or something wrong with it, and the liver can actually regrow. So the stomach. Now, the stomach is not the prettiest of organs either, but when you eat food, it passes through your digestive system into your stomach and it stays there for about 2.5 hours. Your stomach muscle basically squashes and pumps and crumbles and jumps and squishes your food into a creamy pulp. It's basically a big bag of acid. Your stomach produces juices to break down the food that you eat and also to kill any germs that you may have swallowed. Right, so now we're going to look at the intestines. That's also part of the digestive system, but there's two parts. They look like worms, don't they? There is the large intestine and the small intestine. So we're going to start with the large intestine. Oh, do forgive me. I actually started with the small intestine. The small intestine is a narrow tube that's about 6 or 7 meters long. Well, a full-grown adult person such as myself is about 1.7 meters, so you'd need about 3 or 4 of me to be squeezed inside you to be that long. The food leaves your stomach and comes there first, and that's to be so that all the nutrients from what you've eaten can be absorbed into the body. Water and food that cannot be digested goes into the large intestine. I forgot to say, and comes out as waste. So that's really where all the gunky bits end up. Right. The skin. Now, earlier I posed you the question and I said to you, the liver is the largest internal organ, and often people mistake it and say it's the largest organ, but that's not true. The largest organ of the body is actually your skin. Your skin is so important because it covers everything and protects the inside of your body. Now, this picture here is actually a cross-section. Here is what the top part of your skin looks like. And you see the hair. This is a hair follicle going down in there. This shows you how complex the skin actually is. Your skin has really important jobs. It protects your body. It keeps your body at the right temperature, and it gives you the sense of touch. Now, the skin is tough and strong, and it is just the right covering for the body because it can renew itself. Similarly to the liver, skin has about 7 or 8 layers, and we are continually shedding our skin. You don't see it, but you do, and more is coming through. You can't see it happening, though every minute of the day we lose about 30 to 40,000 dead skin cells from our skin. And just remember, before I move on, the skin is so super important at this time with things like viruses going around, such as the COVID-19, because the skin is the first line of defense from stopping any viruses from getting into your bloodstream and infecting your body. So keep good care of your skin. In fact, burn victims, people that have gone through horrible tragedies and been burnt, they don't usually suffer so much from the burn itself, but it's the viruses and infections they can catch because they don't have the protection of their skin. So they are often put into very sterile environments, and people that come into contact with them are not allowed to touch them because they could give them some horrible bug. So what about the rest of the organs, some other organs inside your body? So our diagram only showed some organs, but let's have a little look at a couple more that are equally important. The kidneys. So the kidneys come in pairs. Again, similarly to the lungs, you can live with just one kidney. If you've ever seen a kidney bean, you'll know why they're called kidney beans, because they're shaped like a kidney. Each kidney is about 13 centimeters long and about 8 centimeters wide. My best way of comparing it would be to a computer mouse. That's about the right size and shape. They're every bit as important as your heart, and you need at least one kidney to be alive. So there's a little picture of a cross-section of what a kidney looks like. One of the main jobs of the kidney is to filter the blood. It takes waste out of the blood, because there's a lot of things that we eat and drink that actually our bodies do not need. The waste has to go somewhere, and this is where the kidneys come in. The waste is combined in the kidneys with water to make urine, and it travels from the kidneys to the bladder. And that brings us on to the bladder. The bladder. The bladder is basically a little bag. It's like a deflated balloon almost, and it collects urine that leaves the kidneys. When your bladder is about halfway full, it will send a message to your brain and tell you to go to the toilet. So listen to your bladder if it's telling you to go, go. Drinking plenty of water and avoiding lots of rich food are very important to keep your kidneys and your bladder in good condition. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed looking at some of the organs of the body. So let's now see what you can remember. Here is my little person, And the skin. Remember, the skin is the largest organ of the body. This one is the brain. Okay, what's that one? It is the liver. These two work together to give our bodies oxygen and get rid of waste gases that our body makes, carbon dioxide. They are, of course, your lungs. In the middle of your lungs, hopefully no one gets that wrong, is your heart. But remember, sorry, I shouldn't have said in the middle. It's a little bit to the left. Then we have your intestines, your small and then your large. A little bit confusing, actually, because the small intestines are the long ones and the large intestines are the short ones, but you get what I mean. Then we have your stomach, basically a big bag that collects the food that you've taken in. And if I turn my little man around, here we have the kidneys, and the kidneys go into the bladder. So well done. I hope you enjoyed that and you learned a little bit more about the organs of your body. I have put together a little activity following this lesson for you. It's a nice matching activity where I've given you the different pictures and names of the organs, and you have to match them to their correct functions. I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow, grade 5. Have a lovely day further.